So anyone that's worked with me knows I'm relentless in trying to rid the world of consultancy speak and needless complexity in business. One of a handful of underlying principles that drive my work is that business is simple. It's people that make it complicated. And this week I've come across an absolute beaut. I'm going to read this tweet from the Boston Consulting Group, who I believe are the people whose most senior consultants have been relieving taxpayers of 7K a day for their boundless wisdom about pandemic management. So here's the quote. Buckle up. Here we go. We must distinguish between temporarily postponed, accelerated, or disturbed consumption and new, more permanent patterns of consumption. I'm just going to let you chew on that for a second, because my first thought was, no shit, Sherlock. This is what I often refer to as calling a spade a horizontal earth extraction implement. Now, I remember in one of my later years in the corporate world, in just 1 year, the company I worked for spent £20 million across 7 consultancy companies. One of the braver, or if you might think stupider, senior managers at our annual senior conference stood up and asked the CEO why he felt the need to bring in these people at huge cost rather than trust the management team whose wages he paid. Unsurprisingly, his answer was utterly uncompelling. Now, I was involved directly with about 3 of these companies and the projects they were doing. And from what I could see, they just seemed to gather everyone's ideas up, then try and wedge them into a pretty model that one of their pointy heads had designed before building a PowerPoint deck to justify their fee. And typically that PowerPoint deck was as thick as a brick, both intellectually and physically. Now, at some level, I've always known that business at its very essence is simple, even though I convinced myself for many years that somehow I was the one missing something. And the idea that there is anything complex to grasp, I found deeply unhelpful and misleading. Because the help you need is not in figuring out what to do, even if you don't know what that is right now. The challenge is understanding what stops you from figuring out, stops you from having the conversations, making the decisions, and taking the actions. That's the real nub of the issue here, and that's where I really help. This is about having an honest, challenging look at yourself in the mirror, a good laugh about it, and then creating the shifts in thinking and behavior you need to get the results you want. You don't need consultants. You need to learn how to get out of yours and your leadership team's way.